Hey, hey, hey. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for coming out and joining us on another episode of Melanated and Candace Color of Truth. We are going to be talking about some interesting topics today, getting a little deep into some celebrity news and talking about these different laws when it comes to child support. We'll also be talking about some police brutality issues and some updates on the Breonna Taylor events and then also Miss Brittney Griner. But before we go into that, I would like to welcome my lovely ladies. Um, Good day, ladies. How are you doing today, Miss D?
I'm good. How about yourself?
Pretty good.
Yeah,
Pretty.
I can't complain.
You know, it never works out anyway, even if you do.
All right, so just taking it one day at a time. Trying to stay away from the grocery store.
Ah. Oh, wait a minute. They say we in a recession that we not in. So, you
I know
wasn't
they don't
really
want to call it one, but this is our second quarter of negative GDP,
right.
but they don't
Right.
want to call it a recession, so it is what it is.
They said they don't want everybody to run out and grab that toilet paper. How
And
you
they will.
how you doing today, Miss Niecy? Miss Monet?
Hey, my bad. I'm doing good. Girl, listen. Y'all listen. It sucks when you ain't got no Wi-Fi. I feel like no Wi-Fi, no Wi-Fi. The kids run around, no Wi-Fi, no Wi-Fi. Everybody, no Wi-Fi in the house, no Wi-Fi. We got to get rewiring in the house. So unfortunately, yeah, internet is down. So I'm using cell phone and it's not the best, but I'm gonna work with it.
Make it do what it do.
I know that's right. Well, we appreciate you spending some of your internet battery juice coming in to have some candy. Because, yeah, I too know the internet struggle. You know, I'm always over here struggle streaming, trying to get it right.
Right. And then all of a sudden I'm hearing fireworks. I'm hearing fireworks, but it was like boom. It was, you know what I'm saying? You hear like a couple of them, and it's like, wait a minute. What I know these ninjas not shooting and acting crazy right now. Wait a minute. So yeah, my bad. I went through a whole little looking in the air mode, like, wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute. Might have to hit the ground. Wait.
They might.
Right, real life out here.
Have a way of
Oh
doing.
snap.
So, I know we had a lot of interesting topics that we were going to talk about today. I think starting out so that we can go ahead and get it started, I was going to first jump into the NBA player, Iman Shumpert, and the situation that happened with him over at the airport. D, I heard he was over there in your neck of the woods and then got tackled down at the airport.
Yeah, he did. So apparently he got caught with, I think they said 6 ounces, a little over 6 ounces of marijuana at DFW airport. And what's crazy about it is, well, in Texas, felony is anything over 4 ounces, I believe. So he got caught with a little over 6. But what's crazy about the story is, where's the outcry for him to be released? That's what I'm trying to figure out, because everybody's over here talking about Brittney Griner, which we'll get to later. But where's the outcry for Iman to be released?
Why is he being released? For what? Didn't he do the crime? You said
Same
it's
thing
over
Brittney
4 ounces.
Griner did, but ain't they trying to get her home?
She's over in a whole other country. It's a big difference between Dallas, Texas,
Hold
or
on. The law is the
wherever
law.
versus
The
a
law is
country.
the law. And in
I
Texas,
understand, but it's a
anything more than
whole
4
country.
ounces. But
It's
in
a whole
Texas,
country. I know.
but in
I understand.
Texas,
I understand totally what you're saying. United States. I totally got you. I understand also your Texas. Again, it's a whole nother country. No one wants to do no time in a whole nother country. You do
but
time
you
in
hold
America,
on,
it's
you
totally
do the
different.
time where you do the crime, though.
No, it's a difference. No, bring Brittany's
You
ass
know,
home and then have her ass do crime and do the time. That's cool. Bring her ass home out. Bring her ass from
She's
to
not
the
she's
U.S.
not guilty in America.
yeah,
Doesn't matter. Like I said, no one's screaming for old dude to get out because he's in the U.S. He's not in no harm.
Hold
He's
on.
okay. He did the
Hold on.
crime, 6 ounces, and so what, bro? You're all right.
Pull the
Brittany, come
story
on
up. Pull
home.
the
he all
story up,
right.
Roxy.
Be
Pull
all
the
right.
story up, Roxy.
Be all
But
right.
I'm gonna pull this story up real quick.
hold
So we
on.
can talk
I
about
want you to take a trip to Russia and tell me if you're willing to violate or violate any crimes or any laws over there. You take
I
a trip to
wouldn't have.
Russia.
I wouldn't have. I wouldn't do it in no country. I don't give a damn if I'm on a cruise. A nigga ain't gonna do nothing. Nothing. You don't do that in no
That's
other
the point.
country. You don't do nothing stupid in another country. It's not your country. You keep your ass in your own country. Do some stupid shit if that's what you choose to do in your own country. But you don't take your ass in no other country. Do no stupid shit.
listen.
But it's a big difference. Brittney come back to the U.S. That's something different. Sumter, okay.
So
You in possession anyways, homie.
I'm gonna need them to wait, okay? Because they're interrupting my show. All right. Um, he is one of the stars that plays on the Shy. So him being locked up is a big thing. I did not know before that I started doing research on him that he was Tiana Taylor's husband. And the father of her kids, and I guess that's where he was on his way to go and pick his baby girl up. What I didn't understand about the whole situation is why he would take that kind of marijuana with him onto an airplane. Like that just didn't make sense to me. I mean,
Not at all. I definitely would have been driving.
like, bruh.
So
Yeah,
so are you gonna read it, Rox?
yeah. So, the article is from the NBC DFW Channel 5. They updated it on August the 4th, yesterday morning, for NBC 5 News. And it says that the former NBA player Iman Shumpert was arrested Saturday at DFW Airport after security screeners found a sizable bag of marijuana and a gun magazine in his backpack. According to the arrest report from DFW Airport, the officers were called to the TSA checkpoint at Terminal E Saturday afternoon because they see a report of a drug violation. And when they got there, they met with the TSA officials who said they discovered a sizable amount of a green leafy substance inside of a backpack during the secondary screening process. So, according to their report, they had a Glock magazine that contained 14 9mm rounds that was also found in that backpack, along with 6.12 ounces of marijuana, but no weapon was located inside the bag. He told the police that the substance was marijuana and he was traveling to LA to pick up his daughter. Afterwards, after they caught him, he asked them if there was any way that he was going to be able to make his flight. And the rest of the officers told him,
Hey, you can't knock the man for trying.
he like, hey, is y'all gonna let me get on? I got to go get my daughter.
Hey, if he had 4 ounces, they probably would have.
Exactly. If
They
he would
probably
have
would have just fined him. They would have taken his drugs, fined him, and let him go on about his way.
if he had the minimum of what you said or the maximum of which you're allowed to have.
Yeah, they told him he wasn't getting on no flight. He was under arrest. They handcuffed him and took him to jail. They're not sure if he had an attorney or not, and they haven't released any additional details about him. We do know that he was one of the players that got drafted by the New York Knicks in 2011. He spent 11 years inside of the NBA, where he played for the Cleveland Cavaliers, the Kings, Houston Rockets, and then most recently he was part of the Nets. He won a ring for somebody, didn't he?
Yeah, I don't remember who, because I don't really watch basketball like that. So I don't remember who, but I know he did have a ring.
Yeah, they said he got one in Cleveland, as part of the Cleveland Cavaliers.
But it was just interesting to me. You don't hear anybody hollering for him to be released. And my problem is, and we can go to Brittney Griner and see what's going on with her, since she's now been sentenced to 9 years. And don't get me wrong, it's excessive. 9 years is excessive.
Exactly, girl. That's like, what the hell?
The problem I have is, like I said, there's no outcry for Iman to be released, but everybody wants to have the outcry for Brittney to be released. And they both committed the crime. I mean, you both got caught at the airport with drugs, and it is what it is. Russia just happens to be a little bit more strict, because according to Russia, anything more than 6 grams is considered a felony. Grams. Yeah. So, and I don't know how they equate the cartridges or whatever it is that she had, but for everyone to be crying that she needs to come back home and there's no outcry for Iman, what bothered me is we're sitting up here in America arresting a man for drugs at the airport. And don't get me wrong, he had a nice amount. I mean, the man had over 6 ounces. But you're arresting a man in America while the current administration is also trying to bargain and trade a basketball player for an arms dealer. How are we living in these two different Americas? How are we currently arresting American citizens for drugs while we're willing to release a Russian arms dealer for a basketball player that got caught with drugs?
Right. I mean, technically, if they're getting ready to make marijuana legal and it's not a big deal in all of these states,
Right.
I don't understand why this man had to serve all this time, or why they
Why he serving any time?
putting him in jail for this marijuana to begin with, except for the fact that he was at the airport with it. Like, to me, he shouldn't have took it into the airport. You should know better.
I don't know why anybody does that.
Yeah. And I mean, he was on his way to the home of marijuana because, like they say, California got the best weed. Okay,
We
so
going to Cali.
whatever he was bringing from Texas, he could have left at home and just waited till he got to California and smoked real good. Just saying, like, what do they say? You don't take sand to the beach.
I just don't know how America's arresting this man for drugs while you're simultaneously trying to trade a Russian arms dealer for a basketball player who got arrested for drugs. I just don't know how we're having these two Americas coinciding at the same time.
And I totally understand some of that, but my thing is, like Roxy said, you're legalizing marijuana. You have dispensaries everywhere. You are doing this and doing that when it comes to marijuana. Really? Really? Him? He's an American. Texas, if I'm not mistaken, and you can let me know, what is your marijuana's down there? Y'all, what type of marijuana y'all got down there? Is it not recreational? What's the laws down there in Texas? That's what I'm asking. Like, is y'all allowed to have medical marijuana?
Anything up to 4 ounces is considered a administrative crime or whatever, or charge, and anything above that is felony charges.
Right.
So above,
do you guys have
above 4 ounces is felony charges.
Do you guys have recreational marijuana down there?
No, it's not legal in Texas.
Okay, it's not legal. Okay, recreational is not
that's
legal.
why I say anything less than 4 ounces, that's still a fine. It's just an administrative fine.
But my whole thing is they're trying to legalize it. That was my whole thing. Like Roxy said, they're trying to legalize marijuana. I don't understand how this becoming an issue with, yes,
Texas ain't legalizing no time soon.
Right, but my whole thing is, bruh, he shouldn't have bought the shit on the airport, or on the airport, by the airport, around the airport. That's like you taking it to the police station, which that's like you knowing you got to go to the police to, to go pay a fine or something, and you gonna take it with you. Like, bruh, like who does that? Or you got a joint in the back of your ear, and you about to walk into the, into the bed, and you know what I'm saying, and about to go get your license or something, and the sheriffs and shit is all around. Like some of that shit you just got to think about. But my whole thing is, America is trading a criminal.
Go to the Brittney article.
Yeah, that whole Brittney thing is like, now you guys are trading a known criminal for our American. That's pretty much what it is. She's a WNBA star. She's an American. So you're trading an American for a criminal that wants to kill Americans, if I'm not mistaken, right?
He has, honestly and truthfully, Victor Bout has been a Russian arms dealer for pretty much the world. He has supplied weapons to the Congo war zones, Liberia, Sierra Leone, and to the Taliban and others as well. So he is a known arms dealer around the world. So how is it that we get to the point where there's so much of an outcry for whatever this women's entitlement is, that Brittney should be treated any differently than anybody else? She broke the law over there. Then, hey, it is what it is. Don't get me wrong. 9 years is harsh. It is harsh as hell for what they found. But at the same time, you over there in Russia, and I've been to Europe. I'm not breaking no laws in Europe. I'm just saying. And I definitely ain't taking no illegal substances to no airport. Who the hell does that? So both of them being arrested, hey, if it's against the law, it's against the law. Both y'all got arrested. Hey, that's on you. I don't have anything to do with that. But you can't be sitting out here acting like it's a bigger crime that Brittney got arrested than Iman getting arrested. And again, the reason why is because we're currently in America where the administration is trying to trade Victor Bout for Brittney Griner. How the hell do those two equate to an equal swap?
They do not. They do not.
It's not.
I mean, I'm gonna tell you. For me, what it is for me when it comes to both of them was foolish. Let's start there. Both of them was foolish. And there's plenty of people. Nisa, you made the comment about people who do stupid stuff. I didn't see so many people going down to the courthouse and pull that marijuana out their pocket and throw it in the cup on an accident. Like
exactly, like I didn't see people do the same thing. Like you about to go in someplace and you do. Like really, y'all? Like you didn't think you ain't smell your own you didn't smell yourself.
They got high on their way down there. I forgot.
Smell myself.
I'm sad about Brittney only because of the fact that they gave this child 9 years for drug smuggling. I don't think that they charged her with the right thing. I mean, I know it's
Why?
Because she wasn't.
Because I don't feel like she was necessarily. I
don't think she was smuggling. She's a cartridge
but hold
user.
On. You know what? You know how smuggling is determined, right? It's determined based on what is felony charges, and what is felony charges is basically what they consider distribution. So if they consider what she had enough to distribute, then hey, I'm not saying that it's right. I'm not saying that I agree with it. What I'm saying is, according to them, if that's what, if it's not legal and you brought it over here, then you drug smuggling. Yeah. Now I admit I don't think she had enough to distribute. Hey, but some people can argue that Iman didn't have enough to distribute.
Right. That was pure consumption for him. That's
pure consumption.
That was
right. So it all depends.
Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Ta-da!
Maybe 9 years is excessive, but I'm sorry, I can't have a bigger outcry for her than I have for anybody else, especially not when America's in the current state that it's in. It's not even legal here. How are y'all sitting up here trying to put up a fight for somebody in another country who had marijuana, and you haven't even legalized it here in America everywhere?
Man, listen.
How do you get to have that argument about another country's marijuana laws?
Easy. She's an American. She's a WNBA star.
And what that mean? She got 3 fans.
Okay, 3 fans. Her wife, WNBA folks, her coach, and the president. So with that being said, since she got the coach, the president, and the wife, with that being said, she in there like swimwear. She coming home. They trying to make that exchange arrange. Now, for that person, I think honestly, Russia set that shit up to the point that they already knew that, they already had a plan of that. You know what I'm saying? They already had a plan of attack. They just had to find the right person, the right American to hold some water for us. That's all that was.
Even if that's true, so everyone's talking about her being a political pawn. Even if that's true, she still committed the crime that allowed her to be a political pawn. So whether Russia had this agenda or this idea that they were going to hold somebody captive in order to try to make this trade, regardless of the fact, you still made yourself a target by committing a crime. So I'm sorry, the pity for me just ain't there, because you still committed the crime. You want to sit here and say that you didn't know. How do you not know that you put a vape pen in your luggage? If you smoke 9 times out of 10 and you carry this around with you, it goes everywhere with you. So how are you going to sit up here and plead guilty but say you didn't mean to break any laws because you didn't mean to pack that in your bag? Well, did you mean to leave it in the hotel room? I'm not understanding where you meant to leave it at if you didn't mean to put it in your bag when you was coming back home. Where did you mean to leave it?
In the post office box mailed to her. She just forgot to mail it.
You can't mail contraband through the United States Postal Service.
Girl, that's not what I said. I said she forgot. I didn't say that's what she could and could not do. I just said that's what she forgot to do. That's what she forgot to do. I didn't say she was doing it illegal. I just said she forgot to do it.
Nah.
Her ass would be on that damn airplane, wouldn't she? She would be on that airplane. They might have stopped it from getting to her, but she'd be on that airplane. She would have been on that airplane.
See, goofy stuff like that though, she'd have probably put her return mailing address on there, and they'd have came to her house. Like, girl,
you see my mouth?
You got
Damn, dummy Gina.
I mean, you guys
Yeah.
better. Where they do this at? I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna play this video real quick, so y'all can She looks so sad. I feel so bad for
Don't she?
Britt. Look at her. Oh my
Yeah.
god.
Hey, somebody said she need to man up.
She is manned up, ain't she?
They was like, all right, big fella, we'll see you when you get there. It's cool. This is her reaction when they read the sentence on her.
Probably broke down like,
So
Lord,
sad.
Jesus, sweet baby Ray, Jesus, Lord, 9 years for some cartridges.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, 9 years, especially
No,
9
that
years
wasn't
in
sweet.
Russia.
That's
Yeah, I ain't trying to do 9 years
That was
in
open
Russia.
pit right there.
Yeah, that was like, what? Not for what? What?
They actually had the audacity to say that they took into account, her whole partial guilty plea, the fact that she showed some remorse for the crime and all this other stuff, and y'all still gave her pretty much the max, because they were like, well, we was asking for 9.5, we only gave her 9. I'm like, really?
So damn
like,
childish.
let's chop her off because she was crying like a little female.
It looked like it don't want to play.
I know, right? Oh, yeah. Didn't I say we wasn't struggle streaming today? Stop playing me. All right. Now, come on. Come on, CNN near Moscow.
What be these cornballs?
And then all the wonderful people.
Is it skipping?
The cow is skipping. The sheep is skipping.
Yeah, it might not play.
The moment when the judge actually read the sentence, the maximum sentence, the one the prosecutors asked for, 9 years in a penal colony.
Wait.
Final verdict is.
It's too much. It's too much.
I'm like, oh.
Roxy, you struggle streaming.
I don't know. It was talking while it wasn't talking.
9
It was
years of imprisonment.
Yeah, it's just just don't worry about it.
Got real big, like, Lord Jesus, 9 years.
In the penal colony. And
It was going back and forth. Wait.
Look at her face.
she will.
Yeah, I quit with her.
It's sad.
With the struggle stream,
She will serve her.
If I was her, I never ever leave the U.S. when I get back. No,
from
never.
the day of the announcement of this verdict.
But you know what? I'd like to know, because she was one of the people that was standing against the national anthem too, right? And I would like to know what her reaction will be. Just stop it.
What will be your reaction afterwards now?
Yeah, I would like to know when she
behind
gets home.
bars from the 18th of February 2022. She will be included.
Oh my God.
Okay, maybe it did. It stopped now.
Jill Doherty, former CNN Moscow bureau chief, is back with us.
It would. Wait. It wouldn't stop. It wouldn't let me pause it. It wouldn't let me go back to the little screen so that I could scroll up. It was serious.
It's still doing it.
I'm sick of you. I'm not about to play with this I'm not about to play with this screen. So, they gave this girl 9 years of jail time.
Who's
9.
taken
It's so
in the
sad.
State Department.
And then charged her, and then sentenced her to a fine of 1 million rubles.
That ain't nothing but $16,000. She got it.
It's sad though. You shouldn't even have to.
Oh, shit, I'm done messing with y'all. Okay.
You can't take it off of here.
It was like this super close. Yeah, they said that girl had a partial admission of guilt, and that they took into account her remorse, the state of her health, and the charitable activities that she do.
But how? And they gave her
All of
9
that.
years. How you took that into account and you gave her 9 years?
That hurt.
Don't make no sense.
She said, I know I made an honest mistake, and I hope that the ruling doesn't end my life here. I love my family. She done already spent 6 months there, though. So that's the part for me, because they gave her originally 9.5 years, but she already spent 6 months there.
That's that half. That's
Hold
that
on.
half.
So,
That's why
in other words, they're giving her the whole 9.5.
Exactly. That's why she didn't get the whole 9.5, because she already did the half. So we just want to give her
not giving. Hold on. They're not giving her the 9 years with 6 months served.
No.
I did not know that.
Mm-mm. And what's crazy is she had less than 1 gram of oil in her bag. Less than a gram.
Yeah, but oil is different from the leafy substance.
But she wasn't even going to be able to hit that 10 times. That oil be dissolved.
Well, I would know.
That baby is spending 9 years of her life in jail. She ain't going to never smoke nothing else.
That's what I said. Ain't gonna smoke nothing else. Ain't gonna go out of the country. Like, listen, y'all got me messed up. I ain't never leaving. Y'all play too much. Y'all literally use me. I think. Huh?
Just don't break no laws.
That's all I'm saying. Don't make
just stay away from the airport with marijuana, please. Just stay away from the airport with marijuana. I'm not understanding this concept here. Why we're going to the airport with marijuana?
I don't either. I'm so happy you said that. I don't either. What would make y'all think that?
Listen, I can't.
If you ain't got your own airplane, you don't need to be trying to do nothing like that. You ain't rent your own plane, then stop playing. What is you doing?
Yeah, but for everybody who's talking about she's being used as a political pawn, maybe so. But she still put herself in that predicament to be used as a political pawn.
Absolutely.
If that's the case.
I agree with you. I believe she was used as a political pawn. And during that...
But you don't believe that she brought it on herself?
Yes, she did. No, absolutely. She did bring it on herself. But during that time between us and Russia, you know what I'm saying? Between that time of our... back and forth, rah, what's going on between us? She should have got her ass back over here a long time ago. Like, what? Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Let me put all this down and let me go home.
But see, that's another thing. She did that whole entitlement aspect. You're over there because you can't survive in America off $220,000 a year. Now, don't get me wrong. That's nowhere near comparable to what the NBA makes. But the NBA revenue way more than exceeds what the WNBA is bringing in. And in America, if the median household income, which oftentimes includes 3 working individuals, if the median household income in America is $70-something thousand with 3 working individuals, how the hell can you say you can't live comfortably making $220,000 a year? I'm sorry. My pity.
Because her living arrangements and her expenses.
That's not our problem.
Her expenses is more than she can. It's more than what she bringing in. So she says she needs some more money.
That's her problem. That is her. But you got enough money for marijuana. That's her problem.
Should have been doing some more endorsements. Look, should have been doing more endorsements. Hey, let me get Gatorade. Let me get Pepsi. Let me let me get some. Hey, where y'all at? Where y'all at? Come load me with some money.
Now that's a Brittney problem. That just is what it is. And I don't know why they're trying to hail her. I was tired of them comparing her to LeBron, all of that nonsense. Because everybody who wants to compare her to the NBA, none of them rocking her jersey. And I guarantee you 99.9% of them have never been to a game of hers.
Hell, do anybody know her number?
That's my whole point.
What's her number?
And I feel like a lot of this, so they're saying Russia's using her as a political pawn. America's using her as a political pawn for this whole feminist movement, if you ask me.
How?
Because there's an outcry for her who broke the same law as Iman, and there's not an outcry for him. It's all this whole we got to protect all the women. Oh, if it was the fact that they compare her to LeBron is the whole is the argument between the sexes. So how can you not see that America's not using her as a political pawn for a feminist agenda?
I don't know if it's a feminist agenda. I don't know. I can't say that. I mean, yeah, they did try to do that with her and LeBron, but I mean,
other than that, why is there such a cry for her to come home?
She's in the third world. She's in a whole third world.
But you broke a country over there. I mean, you broke a law over there.
Listening, Linda, she in third world. You not listening, Linda. She in third world. She a WNB player. She's in the third world. She's in a third world. That's the only thing that motherfucker's thinking about. This female is in a WNBA player. She is famous up to a certain extent, and she is in third world country. Bring her ass home. That's the only thing the motherfuckers is thinking about. That's the only thing they're thinking about. I understand what you're saying, but the only thing that they're thinking about is the fact that she's in third world, period. And they want her ass home.
So for me, I think that they not necessarily fighting for Iman so much for the fact that he just got locked up. So it ain't a whole lot of he hasn't been found guilty. He hasn't been sentenced. I definitely would like to see how that part of it turns out. What his sentence is gonna look like versus hers. I believe that he's probably gonna get a fine. And
slap on your wrist, take your ass home.
he gonna get a slap on the wrist.
You out of game.
Yeah, I think his is gonna be way more lenient than hers was. Like, you don't play like that over in Russia. You don't play like that overseas.
That's my whole point. It happened in Russia. We have no governance in what happens in Russia.
I guess, I understand both sides. If it was my people when they was over there, I would be screaming free them all day, regardless of what they had done to. Well, okay, wait, maybe not regardless. It kind of is. Because I'm gonna tell you.
Let her keep her Malcolm X glasses.
But you made this statement that, Brittney just, Iman just got arrested because it was like a week ago or something like that. Okay, but they've been talking about Brittney since she got arrested at the airport. It's not like they just started talking about her today when the story got 30 days old. They've talked about her ever since the day she got detained.
Yeah,
nobody has talked about Iman.
But she's part of the alphabet group, though.
Like I said. Okay. That means I misspoke. Instead of the feminist movement, the LGBT movement. My bad.
Absolutely.
Man, they going for that.
So, like I said, so she's being used in America as a political pawn for the LGBT movement. What's the difference? So how would you be mad at Russia when you're doing the same thing?
They supportive of their people. They like, oh no, they got one of our boy girls. It's a no.
Man up.
Bring them back.
Man up. Man up.
Period.
I'm so done with y'all.
Well, I mean, it is what it is. I ain't mad at them. Like I said, listen.
So speaking of that, and pushing forward, whole feminine. What's this say? feminine movement,
Listen.
equal rights, them baby situations, these baby problems.
Her rights wasn't equal when she went over there to Russia. Period. That's all I'm saying. They got one. They better send her back.
Because they're going.
Hey, Putin done told y'all to stop playing with him.
Y'all
keep on playing with Putin. He done told y'all one time.
Look, Poopy did say that.
This was the wrong time for her to be getting in trouble anyway.
That's what I was saying. Exactly. That's exactly what I said. That was the wrong damn time during this when U.S. and they started investigating his ass in regards to the whole January and the election shit. Her ass should have been like, hey, it's time for me to go home. I'm going home. Now.
I mean, she did. That was her thing. She hurried up to run home. She just ain't check her backpack before she left.
No, she waited. She waited for a while. See, if you was coming home, you would have came home when they first started talking. I waited in transaction and waiting and stuff, and then packing your bags and stuff. Fuck that bag shit. Left that damn bag. Leave that shit. Leave all that shit. Just take you and your IDs, your passports. I got to go. I'll be back.
She only make 200 grand. She ain't leaving her clothes. She wasn't even leaving that little gram behind. She had to take that too.
Like I said, if she didn't mean to pack it, where does she intend to leave it? So that's BS to me.
She was planning on smoking it on her way back. Like
I said, she meant to pack it. If you smoke and you have paraphernalia on you, you meant to smoke it.
Oh, everything.
So she meant to pack it.
She definitely did.
What she didn't meant to do was get caught. That's what she didn't meant to do.
She didn't. Nah, she ain't mean to get caught.
Taking everything.
She definitely.
It is what it is.
I do hope that she gets some kind of real justice. I feel bad about that 9 years. She done already served half. I really do. But moving along from Miss Brittney, we can go into talking about excuse me, a little bit of brutality. I'm gonna say brutality. I'm gonna show this clip.
Gotta make a little excessive force.
Yeah, they
always
call it excessive.
Always. They get scared of the color, and that's immediate threat.
Is this the Brandon Calloway?
Yeah, they arresting that man. Hold on.
What's that in front of there? Okay, there we go.
No, that's probably just the advertisement.
Yeah, I was about to say, I think that's the advertisement. Yeah.
Yeah. But no, so Mr. Calloway is a guy, if anybody hasn't heard the story, in Tennessee. Apparently he allegedly ran a stop sign. Allegedly the cops, they were chasing him or whatever, and they turned on their lights and he never stopped, and he went home and he went inside the house. Allegedly the cops said that he was being belligerent outside, blah, blah, blah. And then he goes in the house. So the cops decide that they're going to kick in his door and run in his house over a alleged stop sign that he supposedly ran. But go ahead, Rox.
Yeah. This clip that we're getting ready to watch is from Fox 13 News. It was an arrest that happened in Fayette County. The police left the man in stitches, and the police department is up under investigation right now. The Oakland police said that they were trying to stop him when he got to his house and got to his house and got outside of his car. He went in the house. And they said that he came back outside with two people and he was being aggressive.
I want to see the body cam.
Because they had Calloway's girlfriend apparently took a video of the arrest. And it said that another lady had pulled her away from an argument with the officer. And then they had another video that began that was showing the officers charging into the house and saying that they kicked the door in and ran up in there on him. You see the police chasing him upstairs, and then he hid behind the couch, and they started tasing him and beating him up pretty bad.
In his
once
house.
the taser, they realized the taser
in his house.
In his house.
After they kicked the doors in.
His house. Yeah. So once the taser wasn't working, they decided they was gonna pull out the baton, and he took off running. They chased him back down the stairs. The deputy came in, and they said that the taser and the batons wasn't helping. He was continuing to resist arrest. So he ran into the bedroom
house,
and all you
right?
getting dragged
in this man's house. And I'm sorry, Castle Doctrine would have kicked in for me, but go ahead, Roxy. I'm a firm believer in Castle Doctrine.
Hey, ladies, we are giving out free Dove samples.
OMG.
Just fill out our quick 2-minute survey.
In his house.
We'll ship it right to your door.
Commercial's done. There you go. But yeah, it was excessive.
Post claiming that Oakland police officers racially profiled and beat up a young man in his own home is going viral. We're going to show you the post, but we do need to warn you tonight that the photo that we are about to show you is very graphic. Take a moment and take a look.
Tragic.
Damn!
You can see a man on the ground with a bloodied face and an officer grasping his shoulder and back. We sent Fox 13's Mandy Rock to Oakland today to get some answers. Mandy, I know that you're back in Memphis where the family and their attorney spoke less than an hour ago. What did they have to say?
Yeah, Darcy, and the man that you saw in that photo is Brandon Calloway. Now, this police narrative we got says everything started when Calloway failed to stop at a stop sign and then sped away from police. Now, the big questions tonight, how did things escalate so quickly, and did police take things too far?
Yeah, absolutely.
Viral on Facebook. A photo of a man on the ground with a bloodied face. In the background, a police officer grasping the man's shoulder and back. Family has identified the man in the photo as 25-year-old Brandon Calloway. The post, made by Calloway's sister, accuses Oakland police officers of racially profiling Calloway and beating him up in his own home.
Hell yeah.
He's a college graduate, electrical engineering degree from University of Tennessee, Chattanooga. Yeah, just for a kid, never been in trouble. There's no records, nothing like that.
We spoke to Ed Calloway, Brandon's father, over the phone. He did not want to speak about the case without permission from his lawyer, but wants people to know his son is a good person.
Personality-wise, he's very, very independent-minded person. Likes to enjoy life.
We went to the Oakland Police Department for answers and got our hands on this police narrative. It says on July 16th, an officer tried to pull Brandon over for speeding and failing to stop at a stop sign.
He about to get paid.
It says Brandon refused to stop for the officer and continued driving until he reached this house. That's when the document said Calloway got out of the car and ran into the house. It says he shortly came back outside with 2 other people who ran up to the officer with, quote, extreme aggression. The officer called for backup, and another officer arrived. The document
ain't no way in the hell he would have rushed that officer. He would have been dead right then and there.
He ran back inside. It says officers kicked in the front door and tried to tase him, which had no effect. The document said officers then used a baton to get him to comply. Eventually, the document says Brandon stopped resisting and was taken into custody. Brandon was taken to a hospital for his injuries. The document said he had to get 8 stitches in his face. We spoke to Oakland Police Chief Chris Earle, who confirmed the department is looking into the incident.
Our officers are well trained. So as far as any allegations go, we just need to look at the investigation and see where everything comes out.
Well, Mandy, as you said earlier, you just heard from the family and their attorney.
Yeah, we did. And Brandon and his family, along with his attorney, they were all here today. And his attorney spoke on Brandon's behalf. He called this situation a travesty. He said he believes the situation is an example of police misconduct and that it could have been prevented. Take a listen.
The police entered the home forcibly without announcing and immediately went to using force that was totally excessive.
And tonight, Brandon Calloway faces numerous charges, including evading arrest, resisting stop, disorderly conduct, and speeding. Darcy?
Okay, thank you so much. That is Fox 13's Mandy Rock reporting tonight.
How you run up in my house? Jump
Hold
on me
is the
for
other
doing
video
12
on there?
miles over the speed
Is the
limit.
other video?
Hold on, I gotta go back because I can't even. Man, listen.
Exactly.
Wait.
All of that, really? Then you hit him with what? If y'all don't stop freaking playing.
Roxy, is the other video on there? I want to see the actual when they chased him in the house because that video should be on here.
Oh, you're talking about the other? Hold on.
Yeah, well, where they actually chased him up in the house.
Ain't no
I thought it was on
damn
here.
well.
If not, you may have to Google it because I want to see the video where they actually chase this man through his house, like literally chase this man through his house.
That ain't well trained. Well trained, that means you could have had his ass outside. That means you would have did all that outside. He was already in his house. There was no reason for y'all to even go in there. That's one person that just got away if that's what it was.
But not just not go in there. So whatever happened outside, because it's alleged, because I haven't seen the body cam or anything like that. All that's alleged to me. What I did see was y'all chasing this man through his house. So even so, the wife and the child, there was a child at home. I'm assuming it was their child because there was a child in the house and the wife was there. And I guess somebody else was there. I have no idea. But you see the child in the camera and you hear the wife screaming. My thing is this. If you run up in my home, I'm in the house. I don't know what happened outside. My husband comes home, he closes the door, whatever happens. Next thing I know, a bunch of men are kicking down my door and running in my house. All I saw was a bunch of men in black and I thought somebody was robbing me. That's my story and I'm sticking to it. Because you ain't just running. They literally just kicked this man's door in and ran through his house. And I'm sorry. As an unsuspecting individual who believes in the castle doctrine, that story would have ended a tad bit differently in my house because I don't know who the hell you are. No one knocked on the door. You didn't do none of that. Now, I don't know if the husband and the wife had a conversation prior to. I haven't seen the other video where they were outside arguing. I hadn't been able to find that. But I do know that you kicking in somebody's door and chasing them through the house. If you don't call that excessive over a stop sign, but y'all weren't kicking in no doors. Y'all weren't kicking in no doors when the Robb Elementary kids was getting slaughtered in Uvalde. You weren't kicking in doors when the Buffalo shooter was at the grocery store acting like a fool. But all of a sudden, somebody run a stop sign and you got to be kicking in doors and chasing them through houses.
Now you gun ho for something, right? Now you gun ho for something, right?
Oh, they was.
So when they say the officers are well trained, they well trained in what officers were initially created for in the first place, to round up us. So yeah, they well trained. Because y'all wasn't aggressive when children were getting slaughtered. But all of this over a stop sign.
Out of control. Unprecedented behavior. Over a stop sign. That took me out. And the 12 miles over the speed limit, because I know good and well.
There was another thing. In the report, it said that he sped off, but it said that he sped off doing 32. In what world is that sped off? They literally put in the report that he sped off doing 32 miles an hour.
I was reading it too in a 25 mile zone area. He was going 32. That's what I was reading when it first started. I'm like, really? That was it?
Don't get me wrong. 12 miles over the speed limit to get you a ticket in almost any state. I get that. But how do you say he sped off when you said this man was doing 32 miles an hour? What sped?
That part. And 20 miles an hour zone, it don't be 20 forever. Usually you got a 20 mile an hour zone when you in like a school area.
The school area is during that time.
You know.
Thanks for staying up with us tonight.
Well,
we are still finding answers about why a Fayette County man who police say.
Oh, look, I'm like,
pause it and let it catch up.
It's gonna play it.
Yeah, I was gonna say pause it and let it catch up.
Ran a stop sign Saturday, was beaten up pretty bad badly inside his home. Our Brittney Clemens has been staying on
inside his home.
In his house, honey.
On top of this,
that's the thing that I can't get.
New details of talking to a retired captain who specializes in law enforcement training.
Is what happened after Brandon Calloway flew through that stop sign, that's stirring up controversy. The cops you see in this video are now being investigated by the state. TBI confirms to ABC 24 it is investigating the officer's use of force. Video of the incident shows 2 officers hitting Calloway in the face at least 7 times with their batons. The video also shows the officers tasering him, and then, his face blooded, Calloway is made to lay down again, and one of the officers is seen putting his boot on Calloway's head. Seconds later, the phone recording the incident is slapped out of the witness's hand.
Very, very rarely heard of police officers kicking in somebody's door without a warrant. You need a warrant to do that.
Retired Shelby County Captain Beanie Cobb now consults law enforcement agencies on police de-escalation tactics. He tells us, based on the witness video, the Oakland officers broke the law from the moment they kicked in the door.
And the law says that to come into a
You got the gun out and everything.
be invited in. Even if you have a search warrant, the law says that you knock first, and then you announce. And then depending on what the charge is, you can force your way in.
According to the affidavit, when officers tried to arrest Calloway outside of the home, he ran inside. Captain Cobb says at that moment, officers should have de-escalated the situation.
The best thing they could have done and should have done was knock on the door, try to negotiate, try to get them to come out, maybe call the phones. And if that wasn't successful, the next only thing he has to do was to get a warrant.
Captain Cobb also says the use of batons
and they could have mailed him a ticket.
Calloway, not to mention stepping on his head, was both uncalled for and excessive.
The video clearly shows the officers were out of control.
He adds the use of force.
Oh, looks like we lost Roxy for half a second. So we'll just pick it up from here. But yeah, so like I said, I don't know how they claim he ran a stop sign, but to kick in a door, there's no warrant for this man's arrest. You didn't knock on the door. The people that lived in the house were unsuspecting of any events, unaware of any events that would have transpired outside. So the fact that you believe that it's okay for you to kick in someone's door, and it looked like it was dark outside, so it's nighttime. This
with the gun out. With the gun out. Did you notice the gun was out too?
Right. And I'm sorry, in that flash, all I would have seen was a bunch of men in black kicking in my door, and I'm not going to be sitting. The first thing I'm going to think about is not going to be my phone and hitting the record button. I can promise you that. I am not picking up a phone and hitting the record button because I'm sorry, I fear for my life.
And the only reason why I think she picked up that record, is because I think I'm not for sure how that beginning, when they were trying to get in, when they were,
if there was an altercation, because they said he came outside before, and I guess because there's supposed to be a first video. I haven't seen the first video
too, remember?
Right. And I haven't seen any body cam. So I don't know what the cop's story is, but for you to say he sped off, but you clocked this man at 32, I don't know what you call speeding, but that's not what I call sped off.
Especially at no 32. But my thing is, I need to see your dash cam. I need to see each individual body cam. We need to see that because right now it's pretty much hearsay. You said this man was driving and speeding and so on and so forth. All we could have seen was the fact that you seen a black man driving. You was like, hey, let's get him. Come on, yeah, let's get him. Ooh, this is going to be fun today. Oh, man, he's running from us. Oh, man, let's go into his house. You guys, you know what I'm saying? This is all just something off of what they normally do. So the fact of y'all saying that he drove or he was speeding, yeah, we need to see all cams,
I
all
don't care
ones
about
in
none
here.
of that. They should have gave that man that ticket for going 32 and a 20 and kept it pushing. You don't run up in nobody's house.
Or
From the
running the
time
stop
they ran
sign.
up in that man's house,
right?
You know what I'm saying? They was wrong. Period. Point blank. And
Absolutely.
everything that happened after that, they liable. That's
Yep.
it. That's all. All that other, I don't care about what happened. Listen, everything that they did from the time that they kicked that man's door in without the warrant, ran up in his house, dragged
From the time
him,
that they got out the car,
thumped him out, dragged him from upstairs, downstairs, in the living room, in the bedroom, beat his face in, all of that. They is liable.
Stepped on his face.
Got blood on his face. She
They should have met him
screaming.
in his house, stuck the ticket on his card. Okay, you ran, you did this, and then the ticket should have been there. We'll see you in court. Now, anything else other than that all that extra stuff that they did because they felt like they was big and bad for the day, they had some kind of point to prove. 30 deep when they ran up in this man's house, all of that extra, that's on them. And I hope he get every last penny that he deserving.
And everybody needs to be fired.
Even if he did everything that they said he did, even if he ran the stop sign, even if he evaded, even if he did 32 and a 20, at what point in time did that warrant you kicking in somebody's door? Because like I said, y'all ain't aggressive when folks got guns out. When the Buffalo shooting was going down, y'all wasn't kicking in no doors. When Uvalde went down, y'all wasn't kicking in no doors. So at what point in time did anything this man do, anything Mr. Calloway did, warranted them kicking in his door and being this aggressive over a stop sign? But you got the mass, the multiple deleters running around out here that get detained without injury. You walking out the store with an AR-15 strapped to your chest and you get detained without injury.
With a Slurpee.
So what that means to me, the message is strap up. Because it seems like the only people that ain't getting bruised and beat up is everybody who's strapped up. Or can and will defend themselves. Because anybody else, you see what happens to them.
No, it's all of the wonderful people that are strapped up. Because if it was a beautiful person and they thought that he had a bag of lemon drops in his hand, they'd have popped him and left him on his steps.
They do that when he thought. So this is the problem I have with this whole, they always fear for their life, the excuse they love to use. So it's always because they thought they had. So my problem with that is, when there's a real gun visible, when you know for a fact shots have been fired, maybe when bullets have been flying over your head, or you know for a fact that there have already been some casualties, y'all don't respond the same way you do when you thought somebody had a gun. So for me, I don't think they thought anything. For me, that's just an easy excuse for them to use to take one of us out. That's just how I feel about this. Because when it comes to wonderful people, you're innocent until proven guilty. And when it comes to beautiful people, you're guilty until proven innocent.
Yep.
You just guilty, period. You'll never get proven innocent. They find a reason for you to be guilty. Okay? It's something in the story that made you guilty. Oh, because that was wrong. You had on a hoodie.
Right.
You was
running.
running.
You should have been more respectful to the officer. You should have You should have been listening to the officer. You should have just did what the officer said. Do you hear what the fuck that? Oh, Lord Jesus. See?
I've seen of wonderful people attacking the cops. And they don't pull out no batons. They don't pull out no guns. They don't pull out no tasers.
You see what they did on the 6th? They whooped their asses. On the 6th, they whooped their asses. You ain't shooting out near one of them people. But if they was one of color, trust and believe, you would have had a whole line of them on the ground. But the fact that not near one of them was colored, it was like, well, we just gonna get beat up. So y'all allowed y'all's officers to also get killed. That's the thing about them. They will defend for themselves. They always got an excuse of why, who did what. Like, dude, just recently, he just killed. He just exited numerous people just recently. Went on a spree, and they said, and they ain't even caught him yet, and they said, well, we know he's going through some mental problems. Who told you he was going through mental problems? He ain't say that. He just went on a spree. He ain't say nothing about his mental. He just don't like him. But you're giving this man an excuse because he's wonderful, right? You give them excuses first. They get excuses. They get the passes. They get the, oh, let me tell you about their trauma history. It was dangerous. It was It was the worst. It was bad. It was all. Oh my God, you guys.
But that's no different from. To me, it's about the lack of. We're dehumanized in their eyes because no different from George Floyd. Even if we're talking about a counterfeit $20 bill, does that warrant a man's life? So that's the max value you saw in this man was a 20. His life was worth a $20 bill to you. His entire life was worth nothing but $20.
A fake 20.
So it's the excessiveness for me. But had this been, like I said, but you got the mass shooters that walk out of buildings with just their hands up, and y'all detain them with no injury. How is that possible when there are mass casualties, but yet and still you taking people out over $20 counterfeit $20 bills, and you running up in folks' houses over a stop sign? But a mass shooter get to go to McDonald's. I mean, I'm sorry, Burger King. My bad.
Yeah, I was about to say he get a Slurpee. He get bandages on his scars and stuff. Oh my God, sir, you're bleeding. We giving him something to drink, giving him some water.
Let us help you.
Right. Anybody else listen? The first thing y'all do for the beautiful people, pull them over and make them sit outside. Sit on the ground.
Sometimes they don't even get that far. They shot them people's car up 90 times. Because they thought that it was a gun that went off, and it was just the car backfiring. Like they don't have no regard or no care for beautiful people's lives at all. At the end of the day, we still only 3/5 worth of a human, and yeah, it's real sad. It's frustrating and it's sad. We gonna move along and talk about this justice, because that's what we've been talking about, basically how just the system is when it comes to us and our treatment as beautiful people versus how they treat those of us who are wonderful. So we're going to talk a little bit about Breonna Taylor. If anybody remembers the story about Breonna Taylor, they just recently sentenced. They just recently sentenced.
No, they just arrested.
I mean, I'm saying sentence. Arrested the person that had the officers that had been charged in Breonna Taylor's death. She was the.
Yeah, so apparently the Attorney General, United States Attorney General Merrick Garland has decided that they're going to go through with those charges for civil rights violations, which they should have. So for me, it's like, okay, maybe she's finally going to get some type of justice. So for anybody who doesn't remember, but I'm sure everybody does, Breonna Taylor they kicked in middle of the night, no knock warrant. They run into the house. Guns are blazing. There's this whole story about whether or not they announced themselves as police, and there's some people who saying that they never heard that. But they're in the house, guns are blazing. The boyfriend, who I guess heard the noise and got baffled because it's in the middle of the night and someone is running through my door. Anybody who was awakened at 2-3 o'clock in the morning to somebody barging through your house, anybody who protects their home is going to protect their home, because you don't know that that's not a threat. Your first assumption is that this is a threat. So he goes out there, of course, thinking it's a threat, which he well within his rights to believe that he was being threatened at that moment in time.
And they wasn't cops.
Right. So they just get the firing and everything. And Breonna was laying in the bed sleep, and she gets shot multiple times. And what pissed everybody off was none of these cops were ever really charged. One eventually was charged with the crime. But it was a bullshit charge. And it was the guy who was doing the shooting. The reason why it was a bullshit charge is because, first of all, he was exonerated. That's first of all. Second of all, he was only on trial for shooting into a wall that could have potentially caused harm to a neighbor, but not on trial for the actual harm that was caused from him recklessly shooting into somebody's home.
32 times.
So how the hell are you on trial for what damage you could have done for being reckless, but not the actual damage you caused from being reckless? So that's what it was for me. But like I said, Attorney General has come out and they're hitting him with the civil rights violations. If you got it, Rox, go ahead and pull it up.
Okay, hold on. Let me.
So, in the officers, they were Joshua James. James was the detective. He was the one who was falsely he falsely put some false information on the affidavit or submitted a false affidavit. Goodlet is actually being tried for falsifying. Same thing as Mr. James. Sergeant Meany also falsifying, and then Brett Hankinson. Brett Hankinson is actually the one who was on trial initially, but of course for excessive force because he was doing all the reckless firing. But of course he got off on that one. But now they're all being arrested. So I'm glad to see that they're actually going to get hit with some civil rights violations. And I think the maximum is 10 years if there's no death. So I don't know what they would actually potentially get, because a death actually did result in everything about this was wrong. The no-knock warrant was wrong. The affidavit was a lie. Everything that they submitted was just basically wrong. And I don't know why these individuals were being targeted. I don't know what the case may be, but the fact that you claim to be chasing somebody who hadn't lived there for months. So how good is your data? And if this is supposed to be the police that we trust to protect and serve, how do you not know that this individual hasn't been living here in months? But you got a no-knock warrant and you just running up in somebody's house, just shooting all over the place.
Late at night.
Right, in the middle of the night, acting like this man ain't justified. You woken up in the middle of the night to somebody running through your door. You supposed to fear for your life, but they fear for their life because somebody got a bag of Skittles.
That part.
Or somebody reached for their license that you told them to get.
Somebody wore some clothes that they ain't like. He had a gun on his shirt.
Right. Is it playing?
Not yet. I just clicked the button so I can get it to come on. What's crazy is
and that's true, Perfect Blackness, because there were more than just one cop that actually fired off some rounds. So the fact that they only got the 4, and I guess they're going after Hankinson because according to them, his bullet was supposedly the one that killed Breonna Taylor or took out Breonna. I guess supposedly.
Yeah, that's sad because it was 7 of them all together when they ran up in there with no announcement. They claimed that they announced they said.
My thing was this though. At what point in time in history did anybody ever not think about what the potential outcomes would be if you started serving no-knock warrants at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning?
Attorney General
when
Merrick
most
Garland
people
announced
are
federal charges against 4 officers over the 2020 drug raid.
Yeah.
Now you about to be struggling again.
Man. That's what happened when you.
But at
what's
what
funny
point in
about
time?
this is,
Huh?
Go ahead, D. I'm sorry. I was saying, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was gonna say, even when you came up with the idea, because I get it, someone was probably sitting in the room saying, you know what, it's easier to catch these criminals, we don't let them know we're coming, blah, blah, blah. I'm pretty sure that was the pitch. But at what point in time did you not think about what could potentially go wrong if you serve no-knock warrants at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning when people are unsuspecting People are 9 times out of 10 probably sleeping, and all of a sudden, all they hear is somebody crashing through their home. Because 9 times out of 10, your bedroom is not facing the front door. So if you're in your bedroom and you hear somebody coming through your front door, you're automatically, if you believe in the castle doctrine and you have protected your house with firearms, why would you not grab your firearm and run to whatever the noise is? So the fact that this wasn't even sought out, why would you not think that this would happen? And the fact that you should know that this should happen, there should have been measures put in place to de-escalate those situations. Because you should know that at 3 o'clock in the morning, if I'm storming in somebody's house, somebody might run out the bedroom with a gun thinking somebody's breaking in. Why would you not think that?
Why would you not put your clothes on and go up in there? Why would you run up in there 6 Caucasian dudes deep, like you coming in to rob somebody
at 2-3 o'clock in the morning
without your equipment and stuff on? Because if this was supposed to be what they call a known drug spot, and you was already going in to get.
How is it known if the guy that you claim you was looking for hasn't been there in months? So when was the last time you saw a drug dealer at this house? If that's the case.
Right.
If he hadn't been there in months, because the other guy, he had been there for like 6 months, right? So you got to take the 6 months plus whatever time span between the old boyfriend and the new boyfriend. So if you haven't seen a drug deal here in the last, let's say 8 months minimum, then what was the no-knock warrant for?
That part. Because they couldn't find nothing else to do with themselves, their time.
Are you still struggling?
Wait a minute. I had been left away from it because I'm about to close it and go back to it. Let me tell you what's funny about it though is I had loaded this. I call myself trying to be proactive and load these ahead of time, okay? And that still ain't working out for the home team.
We're going to get you right one of these days, Rox.
I know, right? It's sad. It's been played a commercial, a video. It's then took us to Cedar Point. We done got some free Dove coupons.
You might be better off just Googling a story and pulling one up.
Everything.
Yeah, that might work better than using that link. Because they'll all give you the same thing. But I'm glad they're getting them on civil rights violations. I really am. I'm glad that, I mean, don't get me wrong, there's nothing to be excited about yet because they've just been arrested. There ain't no telling how this thing is going to go. But what's sad though is I don't think we would even be here if there wasn't the constant cry for Breonna Taylor. The fact that she is still heavy on a lot of people's minds, the fact that you can still see multiple postings and t-shirts and billboards and things like that, outcries for Breonna Taylor. And I really do believe that if the public wasn't still talking about her, if this had just been another story that we just we heard about it, we cried about it, we got pissed off about it, and we protested about it, and then we forgot about it, I don't think we would be here today. I really don't.
Yeah. Because they tend to let stuff go up under the rug. If you ain't thinking about it, they ain't thinking about it either. They'd have went on ahead and let them men die. What would have been the point in punishing them? Y'all forgot about it. So just like they try to forget about all of the other unjust victims. All of the other unjust victims. Because it's been
I'm still waiting on Zimmerman. And you know what? That's another thing that pissed me off about everybody wanting to have all this animosity towards R. Kelly. I said, you know what? Y'all got more hate for R. Kelly than you do George Zimmerman.
You done slid so many times, honey. He beyond sliding at this point. He just coasting along. I mean, coasting along. So this one was from yesterday from the Department of Justice website, talking about how they had a grand jury that returned 2 indictments unsealed, and then a third charging document for the investigation around the death of Breonna Taylor. So it's 4 current ones, former police department officers, that say that they are going to go ahead and charge these men.
2 are current and 2 are former.
Right. It's so sad. It's so sad. It's saying that these indictments are reflecting the Justice Department's commitment to preserving the integrity of the criminal justice system and protecting the constitutional rights of every American.
Yeah, that's funny. It sounds good on paper.
It did. It looked good reading it. Like, oh, look at them protecting and serving. That thing that they say that they do. It's crazy.
But they need the max. They need and you know what? It's not just that. A lot of these situations where these officers are being let go, you know, blah blah blah, whatever the case may be, where they're getting fired or what, you know, you're letting them resign, whatever the case is. A lot of them are still able to hold on to their pensions. And I'm sorry, if you commit this type of act where there's a senseless death from those chosen to protect and serve or volunteer to protect and serve, right. I'm sorry, I feel like you should lose your pension. It should go to the suffering families. Because if there's no financial harm, if you still get to live the same life that you've been living, and you know, a couple of you are getting some jail time now, finally. But if your pension is not being taken away from you, I still don't feel like that's justice, because I feel like your pension as an officer, because if you think about it, all these officers that are getting charged with these crimes now, when you look into their past, they've got a history of profiling Black individuals or people of color or beautiful people or whatever you want to call them, African Americans, whatever you want to call them. Most of them have a history of profiling those individuals. So if you have a history of profiling people of color, then that means you haven't earned the right to your pension. Right. And if you get to keep it, to me, if they get to keep their pension, that's not justice to me. I don't care how much time they get.
Right.
Their families need to be robbed of those pensions, because those families were robbed of their children or husbands or brothers or cousins or uncles or nieces or nephews, whatever the case may be. They're robbed of something that you can't get back. You can make more money. Get out there and hustle like everybody else. But I do believe that they need to have their pensions stripped from them, and those pensions need to go towards those grieving families. I really believe that, because people don't feel things until you get into their pockets.
For real. I feel like they need to go straight to jail, do not pass go. I don't feel like they need to be sitting at home while they waiting on these charges to be justified against them. So a lot of the stuff that they said that these people did, charges such as falsifying a search warrant, covering it up, you know, they made up false affidavits to get the search warrant. It wasn't even valid. They just ran up in this girl's house. They was putting in false and misleading statements, omitting facts, relying on fake information. They didn't have anything, no probable cause at all to be able to go up in this girl's house. So they really real deal killed her for no reason. Okay? Real deal killed her for no reason. Then they got charges of conspiracy. They used excessive force, running up in there, firing the weapons through the windows and through the doors, not even knowing who they was actually shooting at. They shooting through blinds and blackout curtains. Not only
I heard that when the mother was up there asking about where her daughter was, they sent her to the hospital knowing that she was laying in that house on the floor. So I heard that the mother was at the hospital for a couple of hours trying to figure out where her daughter was and was she okay before she realized the truth. And I'm sorry, if that doesn't indicate intent, if that doesn't indicate a conspiracy, why would you send her to why would you send the mama to the hospital knowing that this woman is laying out here on the floor?
It just was ridiculous all the way around. It was ridiculous all the way around. Seriously, willfully, intentionally, on purposefully. And I know I just made that up, but they be pissing me off. It's real sad. It don't make no sense.
Like I said, strap up. That's all I'm saying. Because either way it go, I mean, first of all, why did it take this long?
And they know
Rihanna been gone. Why did it take this long?
From 2020 till now. And they know that they made this stuff up. The Department of Justice brought the charges because they know that these people made this stuff up. I don't even understand why they is going through all of this. They should not pass go. Do not collect $200 going to prison. Like, they should have been saying, oh, we locked them up, or we scheduled a hearing for their hanging, like they did us back in the day. I don't, man. Ugh. That's frustrating.
The tale of two Americas and the two justice systems.
It's frustrating. It's just frustrating.
Yeah. So yeah, I hope her family finally sees some form of justice, even though to me it's too little too late, but but they do need to be locked up. Everybody involved needs to be locked up. From the judge who signed the affidavit, I mean the warrant, the search warrant. Right. Everybody involved they all need to be arrested. They all need to be charged, and they all need to be stripped of their pensions. And like I said, I hope that her family finally gets a chance to see some form of justice. I really, really do. But for me, it's still too little too late. And it's a sad story. I hated the fact that when Mr. Hankinson or whatever his name is, when they first announced that this man was going on trial for shooting recklessly into a wall that could have potentially caused somebody's death. And I was like, hold up. But not for the death that he actually caused for recklessly shooting into somebody's home. That was the biggest crack of shit I had ever heard in my life. And I was so disgusted with that. I was so disgusted with that.
Worried about the neighbors after they ran up in this girl's house for no reason.
Right. But that was a slap in the face. How do you stand trial for what damage you could have caused and not be on trial for the damage that you actually caused in the same incident? Not a separate incident, not a different occasion, the same exact incident.
It's just tragic. It's just tragic. It's just tragic.
Welcome to America.
I mean, and it's even more tragic, these laws that they passing now to allow pregnant girls to be able to get money for these unborn kids when they don't know who the father of these unborn kids actually is.
You mean the clump of sales support?
It just keeps getting greater and greater. Like, they passing the most ridiculous laws out here. It's a whole bunch of people on child support right now paying child support for kids who do not belong to them just because they felt the need to try to do the right thing. You sign this child's birth certificate. You didn't go through this whole pregnancy, been at the doctor's appointments with this girl, only to find out a couple minutes later that she pregnant by your best friend, or she done slept with the boy down the street and she felt like you was the better option. So she decided that she was going to go ahead and pick you versus picking him. And now you done signed this child's birth certificate and got caught up in a situation where you spending the rest of your life trying to take care of these kids that don't belong to you. And the government don't care. They do not care. They don't care. And I'm so excited to be able to announce that we're going to have this conversation. We're talking about it tonight, but the book that Miss D just brought up is called Trapped by Law. And we are going to discuss it in more detail next week. So definitely come back to us because we're going to have a special guest next week. And Mr. Smith is going to come on and he's going to talk to us about what it means to actually be trapped by law. What these government agencies are doing with regards to these parents. And I'm not just going to say that because there's some moms that's out there, but it's harder to trap a mom. You know where that baby came out of you. Than it is to trap a dad when it comes to child support. And that's the reason why we're talking about dads, because it's going to be some moms that come on and I pay child support and it's not the same. It's not the same. Okay, we talking about real life situations of these men that's out here losing their license and almost their lives because they can't get a job, they can't get a house, they can't do none of the stuff that they need to do in order to be able to support themselves and survive because they out here paying child support for somebody else's child. So, and it gets.
I can't wait for that discussion next week. But yeah, so in Georgia, what they have decided to do was now they have changed their child tax law. So in the state of Georgia, any pregnant resident is entitled to a $3,000 tax deduction on their state taxes. So now, a lot of people don't understand what the repercussions of that is actually going to mean. But so Georgia passed this, and they passed it because of, I guess it's supposed to be a byproduct or what happened because of the laws that kicked in late July when Roe was overturned, is no longer federally protected. Georgia was one of the states that had been trying to implement abortion bans. And of course, since it was always federally protected, they couldn't. Well, once that decision came down, because they had these trigger laws, then that means they went into effect on a particular day. And I don't know exactly when, but it was sometime at the end of July that I think was it the end of July or the end of June? I don't know which one. But that when their trigger laws kicked in, this is pretty much a byproduct of that. So they decided now, since what they've done is they've reclassified, and you can pull it up, Roxy, but they've reclassified I guess a fetus to be an unborn person, or they reclassified personhood. So now personhood also includes an unborn fetus. Well, because they're considering it now, since personhood is now considered down to the level of an unborn fetus, which is funny to me because the entire time y'all were trying to hang on to abortion, it was called a clump of cells. Everybody wanted to have an abortion. It's just a clump of cells. It's not a baby. All of a sudden, as soon as Roe is overturned and it's no longer federally protected, now all of a sudden y'all need some support for a clump of cells. So that's why I call it clump of cell support. And it's bullshit. But Georgia has passed a law now that is going to allow those residents that if you claim that you're pregnant, and I think that's going to start this tax year. So come January, February next year, you'll be able to actually take advantage of this. But go ahead, Roxy.
Yeah, they trifling. Oh, I'm sorry. Forgive me. They basically saying that you can now list your fetus as a dependent on your tax return. That basically is what they're saying. So any unborn child that's got a detectable human heartbeat is eligible for this income tax dependent exemption. If you are at least 6 weeks pregnant on or after July the 20th up until December the 31st, you're going to be able to claim that $3,000 exemption for every dependent starting next year. They're going to make you submit relevant medical records or other supporting documentation in order to be able to prove the filing. But it's calling it the fetal personhood law. And it's the idea that a fetus is a person with full constitutional rights from the moment of fertilization.
But we ain't got full constitutional rights.
So right now they're only allowing it to be able to apply to state tax returns. It does not apply to federal returns. They've also tried to pass this law over in Arizona, but Arizona gave them some pushback and stated that they weren't going to allow it. Georgia was the only one so far that has passed it. But they're raising questions like, what about those who have a miscarriage when they get further along in the pregnancy? Say, for example, I'm pregnant in July. up and I get pregnant July the 15th, and then my baby passes away January the 2nd. Am I still allowed to be able to carry that child as a dependent if I'm claiming it? Or am I going to be in trouble?
Right, is it going to be considered tax fraud? But what's funny about that is they didn't even consider that when they wrote this bill. So y'all are having knee-jerk reactions to the fact that Roe was overturned, not looking at the fact that regardless of how you feel about Roe, regardless of where you sit on the, on the fence about abortion, if you've ever really looked into why the Roe decision came down in 1973, I think any rational individual would be able to discern that it was egregiously wrong, as Justice Alito said, because it was built on a lie. Everything about the Roe decision was a lie. Everything that you knew about Jane Roe was a lie. Jane Roe, or Norma McCorvey, she was a liar. She was a thief. She was a runaway. She was a drug dealer. She was a drug user. She was everything but this. I don't know what they tried to paint her out to be. And like I said, she was a liar. She lied about the reason why she was seeking an abortion in the first place. She blamed it on the fact that she had gotten pregnant by a Black man. So that in and of itself was a problem. Then you start to realize that all the doctors that were involved in the Roe decision, everybody, that was part of the whole movement, they were all basically telling lies. So, like I said, if you research the history of how Roe came to be in 1973, you'll realize that it was founded on a bunch of lies and just a bunch of BS data that they were feeding to the media just so that they could get their way. It was a political campaign, and they won. So, like I said, regardless of where you stand on abortion, that's just a fact. Everything about that was wrong. But my thing is, so like I said before, when you were trying to hold on to abortion, it was just a clump of cells. Now all of a sudden you're needing some clump of cell support. But when they wrote these laws, it's the knee-jerk reaction to Roe being overturned. Everybody's spazzing out. Nobody knows what to do. Everybody's having a royal conniption, and everybody's in this phase where they feel like they have to protect all the women because, oh my God, we're treating women so wrong. And they didn't consider the fact of what happens if somebody has a miscarriage. What happens if you decide, because they say you have to provide supporting documents from a medical facility, which I'm trying to figure out how they're going to verify all this. I mean, what documents have to be submitted is what I'm trying to figure out. And could you borrow a friend's documents? I mean, how does that work?
Right.
So you, and then they say that's if you're asked. So I don't know if they're going to be doing random selections of people who have to upload documents, if you're just going to be trusting people to say that, okay, I'm pregnant, blah, blah, blah. But then something happens, you either miscarry or say you travel outside of the state to have an abortion, because in Georgia, after 6 weeks, after the heartbeat bill, you can no longer have an abortion. So if you're claiming the tax exemption, you can only claim it if the child has a heartbeat. So once you can actually claim this individual in Georgia, you can no longer get an abortion in Georgia because the child has a heartbeat. So, but if you cross the state line and go get an abortion or you miscarry, they did consider what would happen at that point. And so then the thing about the paternity fraud, like you were talking about, Roxy, we have paternity fraud running rampant for the babies that are already here. You don't mandate paternity tests at birth. And like you said, the whole mama's baby, daddy's maybe, everybody knows that mantra. So you have the situation exists where we know who the mama is. We can speculate who the father is, but you don't know for sure unless you're DNA tested. They're not mandating DNA tests. And now, even though you can actually get DNA testing while the woman is pregnant, I don't know how early they can actually do that, but you can get DNA testing while the woman is pregnant. Of course, she has to agree to it because, my body, my choice and everything. But you can actually do that. It's a little more costly, and it probably comes with a slightly higher risk than waiting until after and just doing the cheek swabs or whatever. But how do we not expect to have paternity fraud increase when we currently don't have paternity fraud under control for the babies that are here? And the fact that you wrote this law so quickly, just trying to respond to Roe being overturned, and you didn't consider these measures, it makes me think about the actual mentality of the people that we put in office? And how are you guys not thinking about the long-term effects of the laws that you all are putting in place? Or does it not matter because everyone knows that child support is a money grab and none of that matters because you're not making decisions in the best interest of the child anyway? That's just the lie they told you on TV. That's the pretty package they sold child support in the best interest of the child. So now you're getting to a situation where, because since now they're considering the fetus, it's considered in personhood now. So you know what that means. You do know that cost is going to be rolled over to the non-custodial parent, the father of the child.
They're going to get a bill.
What bothered me was they said that it was going to be, the cost was going to be the amount of all of her medical expenses and prenatal care. So I'm like, hold on. So he's responsible for the entire thing? So my biggest problem is a lot of people don't know about the Bradley Amendment. So what the Bradley Amendment does is says that there are no retroactive reductions in child support once they have been established. And anybody who's fought in family court knows how hard it is to get your payments reduced. Even if you can prove that you cannot afford to pay this cost, 9 times out of 10, you're still probably going to serve 90 days behind bars. That's just the way the family court system works. So if like I said, if we don't have this under control now, how do you not expect it to be a problem later on? And how are you going to address those issues as they come? But like I said, the fact that they didn't think this out really makes me question their ability to govern any damn thing, because you can't just have knee-jerk reactions to everything.
This is not the type of thing to have a knee-jerk reaction to. We talking about kids and these men and their lives, their livelihood. Like,
right.
Child support. Do you know the average child support payment in Georgia is almost $1,300 a month? It's people that don't even make $1,300 a month working on their jobs. So and they don't care whether or not you make the money. They don't care whether or not you got it to make. If you make $1,500 a month, guess what they're going to do? They're going to take that $1,300 and you better figure out what you're going to do with that other $200 as a man. You better go get another job because they don't care about none of that. They don't care about how you survive after that. They don't care about whether or not you eating ramen noodles inside of your car. They don't care about none of that. Okay? You got to figure it out. And it's even worse if you figuring it out as a man who not even sure about whether or not this child belongs to you. That might not even be your kid. I know plenty of men that's been in a situation where they was taking care of a child for years, signed the baby's birth certificate and everything, spent time with this child, and the next
dad by default. Right. Because there are states that assume paternity if in a married couple. If you're married to a woman that gives birth, you are assumed the father in a lot of states. But not only that, you're talking about paternity fraud and, paying for children that aren't yours. They didn't consider the fact that what if a woman is pregnant and she got pregnant because of a sperm donor? What's going to happen in that situation? Because the sperm donor's on record. Are they going to be putting this man on child support?
Because they said that they're not even supposed to be liable as a sperm donor.
I was about to say, as a sperm donor, you're not liable for people.
But
where the problem is going to come in at, because this is the tax deduction, that money's got to come from somewhere, tax dollars, right? And because of Title 4D, and because this is a welfare recovery program, any assistance she may get. So if they're paying for her medical bills, whatever the case may be, now she can get Medicaid because she's pregnant all of a sudden, or whatever the case may be, because I'm pretty sure they're going to start rolling all of that back to conception or the 6 weeks, whatever their timeline is in each state. But how are we going to address these issues? If you got it. So if the taxpayers are the ones that basically fund these programs, and they're government funded, for every tax dollar, every child support dollar you collect, you get funded $3 to $5 from the federal government. So if they're going to start allowing the tax deductions, $3,000 per pregnant resident, That money's got to come from somewhere. And you got to think, we're coming off the cuff of COVID-19 when the economy was shut down. It's a lot of states don't have the money that they used to have because you shut the bars down. So you lost a lot of that liquor tax. When you shut the hotels down, you lost a lot of those tax. When the airports weren't full, you lost a lot of the airport tax. So states are struggling now because of the economic impact of shutting down the economy in 2020. So now you've added another state bill. Where are those funds coming from? So you have to consider the fact that there may be women out there. Think about this. We all know that women are trifling. We're not talking about all women, but we know they exist. Let's not act like they don't. We know there's women out there who turkey-based babies. So think about it. You live in Georgia. You're one of those women who would consider turkey-basing a baby, right? You hear about this law that says now if I'm pregnant, I can get a $3,000 tax deduction. What's to stop you from running down to a sperm bank just to get the $3,000 tax deduction?
Damn,
and at some point in time, someone's gonna have to pay for this because it's still even if as a sperm donor you're not liable, because like I said, the bill doesn't even address that, and the fact that it doesn't, it leaves room for somebody to be liable because the fact that the bill doesn't address that.
There's a lot of things they don't address in there. Because what about that 2 weeks before and 2 weeks after? You heard me say I'm petty because I'll be like, yeah, because you don't even know the exact time of conception while you're talking about seeds, when and where, and we don't even know. What if this girl done slept with more than one person, 2, 3 people? So are we just holding out?
We did the whole basketball team, man. Wait, we don't know who the daddy out of these peoples. Oh, my bad.
I'm serious. And a lot of the bills that are being introduced, do you know that they have bills that are being introduced that are basically saying if the woman does not agree to the paternity test, we can't mandate it? What? But you put somebody on child support, but the woman doesn't have to agree to a paternity test?
Come on now. No.
All I'm saying is you men better watch yourselves. That's all I'm saying. But this is going to have a huger impact than I think people even realize. So what a lot of people don't know, okay, this is going on in Georgia. So Georgia's huge entertainment industry, right? From basketball, football to the music business, huge entertainment industry in Georgia. So along with that, you have the colleges too, right? So now what a lot of people may not know is the NCAA now is required to, so they've made some changes to their NIL, which is name, image, and likeness ruling. So what that means is before, when you were a college athlete, whether you played basketball, football, whatever the sport was, you were not allowed to be paid for pretty just anything. I mean, you were there 9 times out of 10, you were there on a scholarship, but you were not allowed to be paid for your brand or as a brand. Well, of course, you know, there's been a lot of back and forth going on that you got all these colleges that are making millions and billions of dollars on the backs of these athletes. So now that the NCAA, now that they've made changes to their NIL ruling, which is name, image, and likeness, now these individuals, while the college still isn't paying them yet, I hear that that's next, because I hear that they're trying to entertain them being listed as employees. Once they do, then they'll just get a regular check regardless of what your status is. So for right now, what the NIL is, it basically allows you to make money off of your name, image, and likeness. So it allows you to take sponsorship deals. So whether that be a Gatorade deal, a tennis shoe deal, you can actually start charging people for autographs. You can just make money off of your name, image, and likeness now, and you couldn't before. So if you consider the fact that multiple states may start adopting this, because, you know, everybody's gone batshit crazy now since Roe's been overturned. So as more and more states start adopting this and they start looking at this, what is going to happen to those college campuses? Because you also have to look at the abortion rate. Now, a lot of the abortions are happening during college age years, where women are a lot more free and they don't want it to impact their career advancement, or they don't want it to impact their education. So a lot of abortions were happening between the ages of 18 and 24, 25 years old. Depending on how long you're in school, you could be there till you're 25 years old. So now that we have athletes that are going to be allowed to get sponsorship deals in school, and sponsorship deals can be huge deals. Now you got an environment where you've got women who, of course, now you can claim your fetus as an unborn individual now. Now all of a sudden it's not a clump of cells. So what is going to start happening? So we already got fraternity fraud. You know, these women exist that are just out trying to get pregnant by somebody famous, a celebrity. Now you're going to have that same college girl who was getting pregnant before by the school athletes, the guy on the hockey team, the basketball team, whatever the case may be, and would normally run out and have an abortion. That same girl can now no longer have an abortion. But now, instead of this kid just being a regular college kid, a struggling college kid at that, now this same college kid has a $1 million sponsorship deal. You know what that's going to do to men in child support?
Mm-hmm. What's crazy though is that same sponsorship that you got in college don't necessarily mean that that's the same money you gonna make, because everybody don't get drafted to the NBA, NFL. Everybody don't get picked. So if you put my child support on because I had $1 million endorsement from Pepsi Cola back when I was in college, that same $1 million don't apply to me. But guess what? They don't go back and change your child support just because
That's the Bradley Amendment. No retroactive reductions once it's been established. Because you know what they're going to tell you? You have the potential to make XYZ dollars.
Exactly. You got the potential to make them millions, sir. We're going to need you to get back out there and shake a leg, shake a leg, shake a leg. Go ahead.
Right.
Shake a leg.
So as they start passing these laws, men,
get a vasectomy.
Especially melanated men, but men in general, because there's this war going on between men and women. Because if you ask me, women have lost their damn minds. They've gone batshit crazy. But in that environment where women want the equal treatment they want equality, or they want an equal voice of men. They want to be seen on the same level as men, but they don't want to take the same responsibility of men. All these laws that are being passed, it's going to have a huge impact on men. And I don't know what it's going to take for men to get serious about, one, protecting their seeds, about two, stop getting caught up in all these crazy situations with all these crazy ass baby mamas. I don't know what it's going to take for men to finally stand up and get the justice that they deserve, because men have been so wrong when it comes to these family court systems, when it comes to them being alienated away from their children, when it comes to how they're treated as second-class citizens in family court. And now you're adding another situation where you're going to be on the hook for a clump of cells. It was a clump of cells a month ago. Now all of a sudden it's an unborn child that you need all this support for. So I really want to know when men are going to actually take this seriously. And the first thing that every man needs to do is to go get a DNA test. And honestly and truthfully, I say that to men because there are so many men that are caught up in paternity fraud. But every single soul on this planet needs a DNA test. I don't care if you're a man. I don't care if you're a woman. I don't care if you're a parent. I don't care if you're a child. Every single person on this planet needs a DNA test. So Roxy, you brought up about, the whole thing about we know whose baby this is when it's the mom, as the baby came out of you. But there are situations where that may not be the case either. I was actually misplaced in the hospital. So in 1976, I was born in a segregated hospital. Well, I just happened to be one of those babies that looked like one of those other babies. I was very, very, very bright skinned. I had red freckles, I had red hair, and I had gray eyes. Well, what happened was there was an exchange of me in the hallway. Well, the nurse who got me didn't know that I had come from the black side of the hospital. So because I looked like a white baby, she took me down to where the white babies were because it was a segregated hospital. That right there is enough to question paternity. So, but like I said, I know who my biological parents are. We've been DNA tested. But there are so many reasons why the world needs a DNA test. It's not just about paternity fraud, even though that's running rampant in America. Everyone needs one. If anybody hasn't seen the story on Netflix, I think it's called Our Father. It's a documentary about a doctor who basically, he was a gynecologist. He basically damn near impregnated the entire town. Once the siblings got through with all this, they were doing all this ancestry, because ancestry was hot, for a moment. Everybody was trying to figure out where they came from. They found, and this is what they found so far. This isn't everybody. They have found 90 siblings from one man. One man. Everybody needs a DNA test. And these are families who have no reason to speculate that this child is not mine. They were having fertility issues. So they're going down to the fertility doctor. The father is donating his sperm. He's there at the doctor's appointments with his wife. And you're supposed to be inseminating her husband's semen into her. Well, the doctor was off in the back room doing his little thing and injecting his semen into everybody else. But this child was grown and had their own children. And you find out that your father is not your father. Your father is actually your mother's doctor. And that isn't even the worst one. This same woman who found out that her mother's doctor is her biological father, she actually used him when she was going through fertility issues. So he was also her gynecologist. Imagine your father unknowingly being your gynecologist.
Right.
So there are so many reasons why the world needs a DNA test. So of course, you know, and we're going to talk about this next week when we have Mr. Carnell Smith on the show. He actually wrote the book Trapped by Law. I recommend everybody read it. He actually took a case to the Supreme Court and actually got a bill passed in Georgia and used it to win his case, his paternity fraud case. And we're going to have him on next week to talk about that, about all this paternity fraud and DNA testing. But we're also trying to start a movement where we want everyone to go get DNA tested on August 26th. We want to claim that day as National DNA Test Day. August 26th was chosen for the poetic, I guess, for poetic reasons, because it's National Women's Equality Day. And what better way to start the equality conversation in family court than to get rid of the mama's baby, daddy's maybe mantra? Let's find out if these are our real biological children, because there are too many husbands that are getting divorced from their wives and finding out that that middle child isn't theirs, or all of the children aren't even his. So like I said, not just about paternity fraud. I was mixed up at birth at the hospital, which was reason enough for me to question it. There are just so many situations where something could have gone wrong. There was another story where a girl, I forgot what it was. I think it was called The Girl in the Photograph. This is a girl that ended up dead, and they were investigating her. And, you know, once they found out, this girl's dead, we found out who she was, we've identified her body. They called the parents to let them know that, hey, your child is dead. Well, the mother let the police know that my child died 20 years ago. What happened was the girl who died was actually a girl that was kidnapped at the age of like 3 or 4 years old. And she had been brainwashed to the point that she didn't know that she was kidnapped. She thought this man was her father. So you were kidnapped by a man that was raising you as his child, and he was sleeping with her. So this woman spent her entire life thinking that her father was molesting her entire life. And she died thinking that her biological father, was molesting her entire life. So there are just so many stories out there, so many painful, heartfelt stories out there as to why everybody needs a DNA test. But please, and I know for some of you, it's not going to be easy. Everyone doesn't have access to their kids. We know that there are people being alienated from their children. But if you can convince your child to get a DNA test, I recommend you get a DNA test. I highly recommend it.
You just never know. You don't know what you don't know. You do not know what you don't know.
Right.
And on that note right there, yeah, we done covered a lot of stuff over the course of today. We done talked about injustice. We've talked about Brittney Griner versus Iman Shumpert and the differences when it comes to Shumpert. I cannot, me and this man's name. My apologies, Mr. Shumpert. You know I love you on the shy, okay? But please, y'all stop being foolish and taking this marijuana over there to the airport, because y'all got to do better. This stuff is stuff y'all bringing on yourselves. Like, come on now. All right. We also talked about brutality, police brutality when it comes to justice and injustices on us as beautiful people. When it comes to Breonna Taylor and how her family really, really, really needs to be able to have some kind of closure and healing from the situation that they went through when it comes to her, because her situation was unjust in itself. We talked about the unjust treatment of the man whose house they ran up in, and unjustly,
Brandon Calloway,
man, Mr. Calloway, they did that. They was wrong. They was wrong, flat out wrong, unequivocally wrong. Okay, Even if he'd have been going 50 miles over the speed limit, they should have stopped him right there. They have all kinds of ways to be able to stop people that's speeding along the way, and I think that they should have figured out another way besides running up in that man's house and causing him all of that damage.
Especially at 32 miles an hour.
Yeah, that's just a lot. There's a lot of things that are unjust in this world, but some of the things are just unbelievable when it comes to the way that they treat us. So yeah. Lastly, we covered child support, and what do you call it, D? The clump of sales support.
Clump of sales support.
And the unjust
Because
way.
that's what it was when y'all wanted to hold on to abortions, a clump of sales. Now all of a sudden we need child support for a clump of sales. Okay.
Yeah, and don't get us wrong.
Thank you, Miss Ridley. Yeah, the girl in the picture, great. It was not what I was expecting at all. I was literally thinking that this is just about a girl who the story was crazy. Crazy story.
Where did y'all see it at?
It was on Netflix.
Netflix.
I should have known.
Netflix documentaries. Netflix have all the good documentaries.
They have all the real documentaries because Netflix took their time out. They said during that recession they was about to find anybody. Well, they was interested in anybody and everybody that had a story.
Netflix said we want all the drama.
We want it all.
Right.
Netflix said, "Give me all the smoke. We'll exchange it with people. We'll figure it out. Just give me all the smoke."
It was good stuff though. They brought a whole lot of good stuff to light.
A lot of things in awareness.
The worst part about that doc for me was, and I think a lot of people didn't think about this, was how the girl ended up being kidnapped. The girl ended up being kidnapped because her mama was a modern day woman, to be honest with you. The husband was he was in the military, so he was off fighting a war. Well, while he was off fighting the war, because I think it was, was it Vietnam? It may have been Vietnam. Well, he's off fighting the war and she's gallivanting about town. She meets another guy. She ends up getting pregnant by him. Well, first, before he went, she got pregnant. So he was off while she was pregnant. He came home for like a 2-week break or whatever. And that was his first time seeing his daughter. And I believe she was like 6 weeks old or something like that. But he was only home for a couple of weeks. By the time he came back, his daughter was a couple of years old. So he didn't have a relationship with his child. When he came back, the mother had actually gotten pregnant by another man while her husband's off fighting a doggone war. So he comes back and, he's messed up in the head because of the impacts of the war, right? So she don't want to be bothered with him. She don't want to deal with his drama. She done found another man, blah, blah, blah. So she files for a divorce. They get divorced. She takes the kids. She ends up losing the kids because there was a tornado or something in the town, wiped her trailer away or something like that happened. And she ended up dropping the kids off at like whatever CPS was called back then. And she meets a guy. And this guy basically tells her that he'll help her get her kids back. Just marry me. And, if you tell him that you're married and you have a home now, a stable environment, you can get your kids back. Well, she did that. Didn't ask no questions, just ran off and married the man, right? Total stranger. So she ends up getting arrested for something else later. He takes that kids and run off. And this is the guy that raises the child as his daughter and is molesting her almost all the time. But yeah, that's that. And what the sad part about it was, because she had gotten pregnant before, she got pregnant with twins. When she dropped him off at CPS and this whole thing happened, before she got him back, CPS contacted the ex-husband and said, "Hey, we got the kids here. We know this is your biological child. We want to give them up for adoption, but we don't want to separate the kids." They actually told this man that you can have your daughter only if you take these other two. So imagine being the man who's off at war. Your wife is having an affair. You come back, she's pregnant, and CPS tells you can't get your child unless you take these cheap babies too.
Man.
So yeah, and I don't think a lot of people probably realize that or paid any attention to that in the documentary. But to me, that was the most astounding thing. Like, CPS failed this baby girl, because had he been able to get his child, she'd have never been kidnapped, ever.
That's crazy.
Yeah, but they told this man that he could not take his child unless he took the cheap babies too.
Now, I'm gonna tell
Child
you somebody.
Protective Service has always been letting the kids down. That's why they in so much hot water now. They're always failing the kids. It's too many. They don't care. The lack of caseworkers, lack of workers, lack of whatever you want to call it. They always seem to fail
Uneducated, everything.
exactly. Uneducated,
Terrorists.
non-caring. Because most of them, I mean, they say, "Oh, I'm going to check," and you ain't checked shit. You ain't went nowhere. You ain't did no wellness check. But y'all put it down in the system as you did one. Bullshit. Many people.
Great documentary though. But yeah, come back next week when we're going to be talking about a paternity fraud with Carnell Smith. And anybody who doesn't know who he is, you need to go look him up. This man took a case all the way to the Supreme Court. So we'll hear from him next week on this paternity fraud and how you could possibly get yourself out of it if you're in it. But everybody get a DNA test. DNA 826.
And definitely check out his book, Trapped by Law.
Matter of fact, you can get it on Amazon, but we'll have more on that next week too.
All right,
Or not, you know what you can do? Call down to your local library and see if they have the book. And if they don't, tell them to order it.
I know that's right. Load them up with these books. Load them up
Let the city know that. Let the city know he's in high demand. Call down to your local library and request the book.
Okay. Well, holla at y'all folks.
Well, that summed it up for me.
Right, I catch y'all on the slim side, you know. I love y'all.
Yeah.
Good night. Thank y'all for coming out and joining us. Definitely make sure y'all check us out next Thursday. You're here every Thursday at 8:15 Central, 9:15 Eastern. And that is it for another episode of The Color of Truth. Y'all have a good evening.
Good night.
Be safe.